Ninth verse of the Tao Te Ching. Quote, "To keep on filling is not as good as stopping. Overfilled, the cupped hands drip. Better to stop pouring. Sharpen a blade too much, and its edge will soon be lost. Fill your house with jade and gold, and it brings insecurity. Puff yourself with honor and pride, and no one can save you from a fall. Retire when the work is done. This is the way of heaven." Unquote. Living humility. As the eternal Tao is in a continuous state of creating, it knows precisely when enough is enough. Deep within ourselves, we sense that this organizing principle of unconditional supply knows when to stop, so we don't need to question the qualities that the Tao brings forth. The creative source is beautifully balanced in the principle of humility, elucidated in this ninth verse of the Tao Te Ching. The Tao has the capability to generate everything in amounts that would stupefy an observer, yet its gentle humility seems to know when there are enough trees, flowers, and bees, and hippos, and every other living thing. Excess is eschewed by the Tao. It doesn't need to show off its unlimited capacity for creating. It knows exactly when to stop. This verse invites us to be in spiritual rapport with this profound characteristic of the Tao. Cramming life with possessions, pleasures, pride, and activities when we're obviously reached a point where more is less indicates being in harmony with ego, not the Tao. Living humility knows when to just stop, to let go and enjoy the fruits of our labor. This verse clearly analogizes that the purpose of more status, more money, more power, more approval, more stuff is as foolish as honing a carving knife after it's reached its zenith of sharpness. Obviously, to continue would just create dullness, and it is obvious that a keen edge represents perfection. Lao Tzu advises us to be careful about amassing great wealth and storing it away. This practice contributes to a life spent keeping our fortune safe and insured, while at the same time always feeling the need to pursue more. He counsels us to be satisfied at a level that fosters living with humility. If wealth and fame are desired, we must know when to retire from the treadmill and be like the Tao. This is the way of heaven, as opposed to the world that we live in, which is addicted to more. We can heighten our awareness that advertising is primarily designed to sell products and services by convincing us that we need something in order to be happy. Analysts might tell us that the economy is failing if it isn't continuously growing, but we can realize that excessive growth, like cancer, will ultimately destroy itself. We can witness the results of overproduction in the gridlock on most highways. It now takes longer to go from one side of London to the other than it did before the invention of the automobile. We also see this principle at work whenever we shop. I call it choice overload. Pain pills for backaches, menstrual cramps, headaches, joint pains in the morning or at night in a capsule or liquid or a powder. And this is true whether we're purchasing toilet paper, orange juice, or anything else. I believe that Lao Tzu sends the following modern advice from his ancient perspective. First, come to grips with the radical concept of enough is enough. Make this commitment, even though you live in a world addicted to the idea that one can never have enough of anything. To paraphrase Lao Tzu, do your work and then step back. Practice humility rather than ostentation and uncontrolled consumption. The obesity crisis in the Western world, particularly in America, is a direct result of not understanding and living the simple wisdom of this ninth verse of the Tao Te Ching. Eat, but stop when you're full. To continue stuffing food into a satiated body is to be trapped into believing that more of something is the cause of your happiness. And this is true of overly filling yourself with any artificial symbol of success. Think instead of the infinite wisdom of the Tao, which says, to keep on filling is not as good as stopping. Enough is not only enough, it is in alignment with the perfection of the eternal Tao. And secondly, seek the joy in your activities rather than focusing on ego's agenda. Ego wants you to gather more and more rewards for your actions. If you're in a state of loving appreciation in each of your present moments, you're letting go of the absurd idea that you're here to accumulate rewards and merit badges for your efforts. Seek the pleasure in what you're doing rather than how it might ultimately benefit you. Begin to trust in that infinite wisdom that birthed you into this material world. After all, it knew the exact timing of your arrival here. It didn't say, if 9 months will create such a beautiful baby, I'm going to extend the gestation period to 5 years. Now we'll have an even more perfect creation. No, the Tao says that 9 months is perfect. That's what you get, and you don't need any more. The next time you're mired in a decision for more, stop and think of the Tao. This creation principle fully grasps the idea that when the work is done, then for God's sake it's time to stop. As Lao Tzu advises, this is the way of heaven. Why ever choose to be in conflict with that? Do the Tao now. At your next meal, practice portion control by asking yourself after several bites if you're still famished. If not, just stop and wait. If no hunger appears, call it complete. At this one meal, you'll have practiced the last sentence of the 9th verse of the Tao Te Ching. Quote, retire when the eating is done. This is the way of heaven. Unquote.